violations from improperly establishing a committee with an incorrect name, not filing certain reports late, and also a disclaimer violation. A response has been submitted, point-by-point response, that explains a variety of the circumstances. I circulated that to all of you. I don't necessarily need to go through it at this point. I don't know what you can see. I know I can see that both Mr. Knapp, who is the complainant, is present, and Mr. Camrus, who is counsel for the respondent, is present. Mr. Knapp, if you would like to further address the commission, I can have you sworn. You need to unmute yourself, and you can further address the commission if you're so inclined.
Hello, thank you for having me. I can speak, yes.
Okay, if you would be sworn then, do you swear or affirm that what you are about to tell the commission is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, please proceed.
Hello, like I said, my name is Trevor Knapp. I just want to thank you all for allowing me to speak today. So before you, there is a complaint against Chelsea Clark for Ohio. And in that complaint, there are a variety of violations, as Mr. Richter had mentioned, not properly disclosing the candidate's name on the office being sought by the candidate, not properly filing appropriate campaign finance reports and keeping an appropriate and strict accounting, and not having a proper disclaimer on the political advertisement. The reason why I bring this complaint is because Ms. Clark is running to be Ohio's chief elections officer, responsible for overseeing these very campaign finance compliance rules and regulations. And this is not the first time that she has had negative findings against her by this commission, and then she's had 6 of them since 2018. So in the violations in the complaint that I had specified, Ms. Clark failed to follow Ohio Revised Code by failing, like I said, to state the correct name of the candidate on her designation of treasurer form, and this created confusion and disallows members of the public to monitor accurate campaign finance reporting and hold elected leaders and those seeking elected office to transparency and account. Furthermore, Chelsea Clark for Ohio either violated Ohio Revised Code by failing to file a 2020 annual report and received contributions during that period, or she improperly solicited and received a donation of $2,500 prior to the filing of a designation of treasurer form. Additionally, then Chelsea Clark then violated Ohio Revised Code by having 2 campaign committees for the purposes of receiving contributions and making expenditures. She was raising money for the Ohio Secretary of State's office and then using that money for her city council office. Additionally, her committee failed to keep a strict accounting by showing a negative balance on the 2018 semi-annual report, which is impossible to have for a committee to have a negative balance on their semi-annual report. And then lastly, Ms. Clark failed to properly identify who her political advertising was paid for by failing to have a proper disclaimer. And this further shows that Clark failed to provide interested members of the public, such as myself, with the appropriate information to monitor campaign spending. And as I have previously iterated and would like to just state again, the only reason why I bring this complaint is because it's very important that we hold elected officials and those seeking higher office to account when it comes to these sorts of campaign finance rules and regulations. And the fact that Ms. Clark is running to be Ohio's chief elections officer, I find very problematic when she has had 6 prior negative findings from this commission. And in addition, as I illustrated in my complaint here, these additional findings of possible violations of election and campaign finance rules. So I just want to thank you for your time. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask those, but I appreciate your time today. And with it, I am finished. Thank you.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Mr. Camras, are you here for the opposing side? Or
I am, Mr. Chair.
okay. You ready to proceed?
I am, if you are.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you for your time. I circulated my statement of counsel, or I know Mr. Richter circulated my statement of counsel, and I think it addresses each point by point. Frankly, some of the things that the complainant raises are not supported either by the facts that the complainant alleges himself and by the law. Some of the other issues that the complainant raises, to the extent there were any violations, they were very brief. They were in no way out of an intent to deceive or intent to hide. Actually, I think the most interesting thing is the complainant said that the failure to file proper reports made it so that folks can't follow along, when in actuality, I think everything in the complaint is because my client did file timely reports, and the complainant was able to see that, as was the general public. So I won't restate my statement of counsel. I'll certainly take any questions from you all if you have any from the statement. But generally speaking, many of the allegations here are unsupported by facts and by law, and a couple, to the extent that there are issues, they were very brief, some of them even less than 1 day, and without any intent to deceive, and have been remedied.
Before we turn to the executive director, do any of the commissioners have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I do have one question of the counsel for the respondent. Is the candidate still in elective office?
Yes. She is a commissioner of Forest Park.
Any other questions from any other commissioners? Any questions from the executive director?
No, I have no additional questions.
Okay.
After reviewing all the materials, my recommendation to the commission is to find that there is no violation as it relates to Revised Code Section 3517-081 and 3517-10A, but to find a violation as it relates to 3517-10D1 and 2, and Revised Code Section 3517-20, and for the commission to impose a fine of $500. I'll be glad to answer any of the questions that the commission may have.
I'm sorry, any questions for the executive director and his recommendation?
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Kreitz. May I ask a question of the executive director?
Yes.
Mr. Richter, I very much appreciate the fact that you've cited the specific statutes that you feel have been violated. Can you specifically identify, without your high revised code section, the acts which you feel are in violation? And then furthermore, I'm interested in why you're recommending $500 fine here as opposed to something less or greater. Thank you.
Sure. Well, first off, as it relates to 10D1 and 10D2, those are the sections that deal with filing proper designation of one is filing a proper designation of treasurer, having the proper name listed. And obviously, even though it was only a day, when the committee was originally created, it did not include a proper name. It was corrected, but that was still improper initially. 10D2, as it relates to keeping proper track of all contributions and expenditures, and in her campaign finance report, she reflected a contribution made on, I think it was July 1, when the designation wasn't filed until July 7 or 8, I think it was. And so you got a problem, obviously a problem there. And then as it relates to the disclaimer, after she created the new campaign committee with the what would be identified as the improper name, she used that as the disclaimer on the material, and that continued for a while before it was corrected. And so those are the violations. And primarily the fine amount is a direct correlation to the prior that the commission found against Ms. Clark as in case number 20, consolidated case numbers 2020 R 159 and 2019 R 266. There were a total of three prior violations. One was withdrawn by the board, and $250 fine was paid before we reconsidered those cases last September. I think it's September. And so I mean, you know, I don't know that I would say I would recommend the commission go to a lesser fine. I don't know that I would recommend the commission go to a greater fine. I'm comfortable with the fine amount that I am recommending based on the circumstances, the efforts undertaken to correct the situations after the initial errors, however you want to phrase it. But you know, I think that's the breadth of the explanation, Mr. Kreitz.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richter.
Any additional questions? Is there any discussion? Is there a motion at this point?
Chairman, I would
Follow the
move
recommendation.
recommendation of the-
I'm sorry.
Dueling
I'll second.
recommendations.
Commissioner Tavares,
That's correct. And then Kreitz, seconded.
And I presume that
not
the
me.
motion was to accept my recommendation.
Yes, yes, that is correct. We have a
to accept
motion.
your recommendation.
Thank you.
Right. That's somebody else. Okay, we have a motion that has been made and duly seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, if not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, the same sign. Motion carries by a vote of 6-0. Mr. Rector.
That is all for the preliminary reviews as it relates to.
Mr. Richter, any instructions or comments to the parties that have appeared here today?
No, thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you very much for your input, Mr. Knapp, for your complaint, Mr. Cameras, for your efforts on behalf of your client. The commission minutes, just as it relates to resolving the matter totally, the commission minutes will be approved at our next meeting, which is June 30th. And then shortly thereafter, disposition letters will come out and you can take care of and finalize with payment of the fine at that point. Thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, Mr. Executive Director, before we proceed to the group considerations for a matter of efficiency, are there any corrections, requested consolidations, new methods of handling for the group considerations?
No, not that I can think of. There's a lot of
any withdrawals or?
No. Yeah, I think was that you that said that, Chris? Yeah, there are a number of guests out there. I'm not sure if they're, wanting to be involved in a particular case. If there is somebody that wants to speak to a specific case, I would encourage you to address the commission at this point before we start into the group recommendations, and we can deal with your circumstances first. If not, then I guess everybody is just observing.
Okay, I see one person, Spencer, is leaving.
Yeah.
We have the court reporter, and then I see one other meeting guest also leaving.
Yeah. Okay. And the other guest isn't speaking, so I would presume that there is no one else present. Where are you in school today, Ms. Tavares, by the way?
Being homeschooled today.
I love it. Okay. So I guess we're off to the group recommendations, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Okay, we're going to proceed to the group considerations with the staff attorney recommendations. Okay, so the first case is case number 2021 R-236. This is in the category of no violation. Mr. Executive Director, any explanation here?
Yeah, after the board made the referral, give me a second. I was not smart enough to open up my group, my ICW file electronically in front of me. But but this one's a relatively easy one. After the referral was made, when the respondent responded, she provided a response that included a filing that was timely. Can't remember the exact date. Oh, yeah, well, it was referred for a late filing of the 2019 annual on January 31, and she had a copy of the stamped report that showed January 31. And so that's the basis for my recommendation.
Okay. Do the commissioners have any questions or comments on this matter? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I heard Ms. Kaufman.
Okay. All right, we've had a motion that's been duly seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the same sign. Motion carries by a vote of 6-0. The next category cases, the staff attorney's recommendation is to dismiss for failure of service. We have case number 2020 R-365, case 2020 R-438, case 2021 R-176, case 2021 R-231. Mr. Richter.
We had tried multiple times to get service on these folks, from the original filings to subsequent continuance notices to the most recent continuance notices, and even regular mail services come back on these folks as undeliverable. And so that's the basis for my recommendation.
Okay.
So moved. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second. Sorry.
All right. There's been a motion that's been properly seconded. Is there seeing no further discussion on the motion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, the same sign. Motion carried by a vote of 6-0. The next category of cases or case is to declare the committee terminated and dismiss the complaint pursuant to advisory opinion 97 ELC-04 as the candidate is deceased. This is in the case of MLR's Lorraine Counsel at Large, case number 2021 R-067. Mr. Richter, explanation here?
Yeah, I was informed by the Lorraine County Board of Elections that Ms. Molnar had passed after the referral had been made. And so the commission issued the opinion 1997 that explained if the candidate or treasurer too are deceased and there's no one essentially able to deal with the campaign committee any longer, that we would then declare that committee terminated and dismiss the complaints filed. And so that's the basis for my recommendation.
Okay, do the commissioners have any questions or comments for the executive director? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I'll move the executive director's recommendation.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion that's been duly seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, the same sign. Motion carries by a vote of 6-0. The next category case is in the $50 fine category. We have case number 2020R-337, case 2021R-051. Mr. Richter, any comment here?
Well, these are both situations where the report has been filed. A response was submitted to the commission, but the response, the actual filings were made well beyond 1 week, 1 month for that matter. I think 6 months on one and almost 2 years on the other. But all the reports are filed, and based on the Board of Elections information, these committees are up to date. And so I'm recommending that the commission find a violation and impose a fine of $50.
Okay, do the commissioners have any comments or questions on any of these matters? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Move that we follow the recommendation of the executive director.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion that's been duly seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same sign. Motion carries by a vote of 6-0. In the $100 fine category, we have case number 2020R 328 2010, case 2021R-254. Mr. Richter.
These are all situations where the respondents are before the commission for the first time. The reports were filed. They were late, but no response was submitted to the commission giving me an explanation on which I could rely to make a further recommendation. Without that submission of an explanation, my recommendation is to find a violation and impose a fine of $100.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion?
I move that we accept the recommendation of the executive director.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion that's been made and duly seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same sign. Motion carries by a vote of 6-0. Thank you. All right, the in case number 2019 R-530, the recommendation is to consolidate with case number 2017 R-484 and find a violation and impose a fine of $150. This is in Lockhart versus Sandusky Commissioner. Mr. Richter.
This is a situation where this is the second, we had a pending case, which is the one I'm recommending we consolidate it with, in which the commission had not previously been able to deal with Mr. Lockhart. Here, he is present before us. We did get service. I'm consolidating the two cases. When the report was filed in this particular case, it brought him into compliance. It was only 3 days late, but no response was submitted. So with the two cases that we had that we're dealing with here, I felt that a fine of $150 was appropriate for this finding, or for my recommendation, I should say.
Okay. All right. Do the commissioners have any questions or comments on this? Seeing none, is there a motion? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, the same sign. Motion carries by a vote of 6-0. The next category cases are in the $250 fine category. We have case number 2020 R-333, case 2020 R-398, case 2020 R-477, case 2021 R-112, case 2021 R-252. Mr. Richter.
These are all situations where there are multiple priors, generally at least one prior. And reports have subsequently been filed. We got that confirmation from the Board of Elections. No response was submitted to the commission, but with the prior violations and now coming back again, my recommendation is to find a violation and impose a fine of $250 in each of these matters.
Okay, do any of the commissioners have any questions or comments on these matters? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
The recommendation of the executive director.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion that's been duly a motion that's been made and duly seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same sign. Motion carries by a vote of 6-0. All right. The next category of cases or case is in the $300 fine category. Case number 2021R-038, Coventry Strong et al. Mr. Richter?
This situation where there are a couple of priors. In the last prior, which looked like we dealt with it in October of 2020, found a violation, imposed a $100 fine. That fine has not yet been paid. Here you have another situation where the report was, oh, I can't do that. I'm going to have to change my recommendation here. Give me a second to collect my thoughts. Anyway, the report was filed. A response was submitted where they explained the situation. I did a $300 fine based on the fact that there was a prior out there with a $100 fine. But as I look at when the report was filed, it was for a failure to file a mid-year report, which is due on July 31. The report was actually filed on August 1. And so therefore the maximum fine we can impose in this case is $100. So I apologize for my improper recommendation, but my recommendation in this case is to find a violation and impose a fine of $100.
Okay, thank you for that correction, Mr. Executive Director. Do any of the commissioners have any questions? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion?
I'll
So-
move the executive director's motion or recommendation. I'm sorry.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same sign. Motion passes by a vote of 6-0. The next case number 2020 R-476, Anthony T. Harrison et al. The executive director has recommended a $500 fine. Mr. Executive Director?
Yeah, this is primarily based on the prior. Again, there was a prior in which the commission imposed a $200 fine that's not been paid. Here, though, the time between when the report was due, it was for a failure to file an addenda in end of September of 2020. It wasn't filed until October of 2021. Mr. Harrison's been in contact with the commission concerning this matter. No response was submitted, and so my recommendation is to impose a $500 fine, which essentially would encompass the $200 that is outstanding.
Okay, do commissioners have any questions or comments on this matter? Seeing none?
Wait,
is-
I do have a
Oh,
question.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Is
Yeah.
it, has he paid anything?
I honestly, I didn't notice the prior out there. No, Mr. Harrison is an interesting person, I guess you would say. You're right. I'm going to have to start watching what I'm doing a little more closely. I'm losing it here. I apologize. I honestly didn't notice that we had the other two out there. No, Mr. Harrison has never made a fine payment, to my knowledge. I know he didn't as it relates to the 2020 DO12. I checked on that one, but I'm losing that. I forgot to check the other one. I can double check that here fairly quickly. I think that's what I want. No, it's not. I guess one of the benefits of actually being in the office, I can access files a little more quickly. I apologize for Making two bad recommendations in a row. I'm pretty sure he is not paid though, but I wouldn't want to make that statement. Why am I not? What's going on here? Yeah, there we go. That was a 2020, July of 2020. Okay, let me run a couple of searches here. Oh, no, I can't go. Just real quick. No, there has not been any payment on any of those outstanding fines. I should have recommended a higher fine. I guess I really probably should go to $1,000. I'll be glad to answer any other questions that the commission may have. So my recommendation would be to find a violation and impose a fine of $1,000.
Mr. Chair, I have a question of the executive director.
Yes, go ahead.
My question is, you mentioned that he's been in contact with the office. I mean, can you be a little bit more specific about what the conversations have been, given the lack of payment over time?
I can only be marginally more specific. He's going around claiming, that the board's kind of one of those, the board's picking on him and he really doesn't have all these problems. Well, if you talk to the staff at the board, they indicate that Mr. Harrison's had his share of problems. The prior case was a disclaimer case. And then the one I was just looking up, 2020 R or 2019 R 048. But he just, he generally states that his campaign finance reports aren't as aren't as bad as the board is letting on, and he's, the board's picking on him, which is not necessarily out of the ordinary for me to get what do I want to call it, an explanation like that from somebody, and so I'm sure he'll think this is unfair. But when I check back with the board as it relates to this particular case. They said, yeah, he's filed, but he hasn't done enough otherwise, and he's got problems with his campaign finance report, some of which he's corrected.
Thank you.
Okay. The executive director has changed his recommendation. Is there a motion? Or any further questions first? Is there a motion?
I move that we accept the recommendation of the executive director.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion that's been duly made and also seconded. And any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you.
All opposed, the same sign. Motion carries by a vote of 6-0. Okay, the next category of cases, 2020 R-361 and 2021 R-027 Summit County Young Democrats et al. The executive director is recommending to consolidate the case with case number 2021 R-27 and find a violation and impose a fine of $500. Mr. Richter?
Yeah, this is a group that's had a number of priors, including the ones here most recently. Let me double check 027 to make sure I'm not losing it again. Yeah, and they did have, they've switched treasurers on a couple of different occasions, and they're back again. And this time, I think as it relates, that's
36.
060, okay, 027. Let me find 027. And so I'm recommending that we consolidate these cases. The board reflects that they have filed all reports. They're as up to date, I guess you could say, as they can be. And so maybe I shouldn't think of the young Democrats as being any more responsible than the old Democrats, but just trying to do whatever I can to hopefully get the point across to them that they need to get their campaign finance reports filed. And even though they haven't paid other fines, I'm inclined to just, I'm comfortable with this fine amount, and we try to keep claiming the other ones as well.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions?
Just one question, Mr. Executive Director. So with this consolidation of these two cases, that's all they have as of this date?
As of this date, yep.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion?
I move we follow the recommendation of the executive director.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion that's been made and duly seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same sign. The motion carries by a vote of 6-0. Okay, the next case on the docket is case number 2020R-480. The executive director's recommendation is to consolidate this with case number 2021R-341, find a violation and impose a fine of $500. Mr. Richter.
Yeah, the report has been filed. It was very late. No response has been submitted. I'm recommending we consolidate these matters to help get rid of them. Yeah, there is one prior where we imposed a fine of $200 that has not been paid. There was a prior finding, though, where they did pay the fine. And so my recommendation now is to impose a $500 fine against this campaign committee treasurer and candidate. I'll be glad to answer the questions you may have.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Move we follow the recommendation of the executive director.
Second the motion.
Okay, there's been a motion that's been duly seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by... Mr. Executive Director.
Nope, this is the next one. I was looking ahead.
Okay. All right, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same sign. Motion carries by a vote of 6-0. All right, Mr. Executive Director, you want to comment here before?
Yeah, I'm going to interject. Let's just deal with case number 2020R-168. Forget 344.
Okay, in the case 2020R-168, the Executive Director has recommended a $25 a day fine with a reconsideration option.
It's a situation where the person is before the commission for the first time. They have not filed the report, obviously not submitted a response, and so my recommendation is find a violation and impose a fine of $25 per day until such time as the report is filed, but giving them the option of having the matter reconsidered if they get around to filing their report.
Okay. Do we have any questions or comments? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move the recommendation of the executive director.
Second.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same sign. Okay, motion carries 6-0. Mr. Executive Director, the other matter, 2020 R-344, what do you want us
Yep.
to do with that?
I will address that right now. I'm not pointing fingers at the Board of Elections. I guess I am, as I'm about to say this, but I'm not. But anyway, as I was going through this, we had a response from the respondent. If you look at your updated ICWs that I sent yesterday for this case number 2020 R-344, it would show that I'm recommending a $100 fine. Prior to that, I had checked with the board on a couple of different occasions and said, hey, has this guy in one other case, have they filed their reports? And board said, no, look at my prior responses to you. It says nobody else filed anything. So I went forward, and this is the recommendation that I reflected a couple days ago. Again, you guys are going to think I'm losing it. I'm sorry. But I would have sworn I made the change on this case and moved it to a $100 fine. Obviously, I didn't. But just yesterday afternoon, late in the day, I got a response from another staff member at the Board of Elections who said, yeah, Mr. Thanasaw filed his reports. He filed them in January of 2021. This was for a 2019 annual, but he did file it. And so the candidate submitted a response. The report was filed. There was a prior in which a $50 fine was imposed, which was paid. Now that he's back again, even though there's been a rather extensive period of time between referral and submission, my recommendation is to find a violation and impose a $100 fine in case item number 10, Scott Thanasiow, 2020 R-344.
Okay. All right. Are you requesting that we have a motion on this or not? Are you ready to?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Find a violation and impose a fine of $100.
Okay.
I'll move. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Knight.
I move that we accept the recommendation of the executive director.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion that's been duly seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries 6-0. Okay, in the next category, the executive director has recommended a $25 a day fine with reconsideration option with a payment of $250. That is in case 2020 R-482. Mr. Executive Director.
There has been a prior in this, as it relates to this particular committee, candidate, and treasurer. The reports were not filed. The reports still have not been filed. In the prior matter, the commission found a violation and imposed a fine of $25 per day, giving the option to have the matter reconsidered if the reports were filed. They are now back again for a second time. This is kind of a standard second time recommendation. If the reports have not been filed, in that I recommend that we find a violation, impose a fine of $25 per day, but then give them the option to have the matter reconsidered if they pay a $250 fine. I'll be glad to answer any of the questions that you may have.
Okay. Seeing no additional questions or comments, is there a motion?
No, we recommendation of the executive director.
Okay.
Mr. Lyle, did you second?
I will.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. There's been a motion that's been duly seconded. Seeing no further discussion on the motion, all signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same sign. The motion carries 6-0. Okay, the next category, we have two cases, case number 2021R-095, case 2021R-227. The executive director has, recommendation is $47,000 plus a $100 a day fine with a reconsideration option. Mr. Executive Director, explanation or comment, please.
Well, it's a quick one. These are two persons who have had open campaign committees for extended periods of time, continue to not file reports, continue to run at various times because there isn't anything that prevents them from doing so in the statutes. And so with the history of these two separate, they aren't related to each other, but they do have consistent prior findings against them. My recommendation is to impose the maximum fine amount. That $47,400 represents $100 a day from the day the reports were due until, originally, which they were 2020 annuals, until today's date, and then continuing with $100 into the future.
Okay, did the commissioners have any comments or questions for the executive director?
Mr. Chair, I have a question for the executive director.
Proceed.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just curious. At what point does a case like these get turned over to the Attorney General for collections or some sort of other action?
The best answer I can give you there is we have in the past referred these guys to the Attorney General's office for further collection, and nothing has happened to this point.
Gotcha.
We are required. I will admit right now, we're a little behind in getting matters referred to the AG's office. But these individuals have been referred in the past. And, sometimes the AG's office has luck, and all of a sudden we'll get somebody from out of the blue that they'll either attach tax returns or something along those lines. But at least as it relates to these, I don't believe that I have not been made aware of anything that has happened with these folks. Sometimes that's enough to get people's attention.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, is there a motion? Is there a motion?
I'll move the recommendation of the executive director.
I'll second it.
Okay, there has been a motion that's been duly seconded. Seeing no further discussion on the motion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, the same sign. Seeing none, the motion carries by a vote of 6-0. Okay. All right. Let's see. The next category is case number 2020R-439. The recommendation is to continue upon the request of the staff attorney. Mr. Richter.
This is an interesting guy in terms of, he was at one point, I think, the treasurer of the Lucas County Board Republican Party. I had conversation back and forth with the board. They've had conversations with him, but he still hasn't filed reports. I'm not clear that we got good service on him. And there's a couple other things that I want to work through in terms of what we have interior. If you look at if you look at the ICW, there's a number of outstanding referrals that we have. And so at this point, I'm just recommending that we continue. And Mr. Chair, you can go ahead and continue a matter such as this. We don't need necessarily action from the board. Just continue to try and work through these.
Yeah, the reason I pointed that one out is because it had a unique title.
Yeah.
Upon the request of the staff attorney. So I thought that merited some type of explanation as opposed to the continue for service or something like that.
I've gone back and forth with the Lucas County Board as it relates to him, because we've contemplated whether we're still going to be able to get anything from him, but the board has said, no, don't dismiss him. Don't do anything else. It's still outstanding. He still runs for offices. but he's delinquent. And so I wanted to work things out a little bit more with the board, see if there is anything else that we can do as it relates to this. So that's my recommendation. That's why I'm recommending that we just continue it rather than take a specific action. It'll come back.
Okay. All right. So I guess I'll use my discretion as the chair to go ahead and continue this matter. Is that appropriate?
Correct. You can just go ahead and continue it, Mr. Chair.
Okay. How about the next category?
I'll go through, the rest of them are pretty straightforward. Actually, Mr. Gelfand also asked, in looking at the next two, item number 15, 16, Mr. Gelfand also asked for a continuance, but the board beat him to it. When I went back and requested information from the board, and both of those cases are from Cuyahoga County. The person that I deal with up there indicated that she's working with both Mr. Gelfand and with the current treasurer for Mr. Zek, and she has asked that the matters be continued. She feels like she's fairly close in getting them to submit their reports. They've been outstanding for a while because it goes back beyond just these cases. And so Rosemarie Amato is the person I generally deal with in Cuyahoga County, and she requested that these matters be continued. Just yesterday, we got a request from Mr. Going down to the next case, 2021 R259. Mr. Cattell submitted a request for a continuance. He says he's close to getting his matters done with the Montgomery County Board, but he isn't there yet. As it relates to the other ones out there, we sent out certified mail service to most of these folks, and I checked online, and we still didn't have service on a lot of these folks. I've gone back and forth with the Cuyahoga County Board in particular as it relates to a couple of these matters, which are long-standing folks that have been outstanding for a while. And I may bring them back in order to declare them, to have the commission deal with them and declare them terminated, because the board doesn't feel like they're going to get anything out of these folks. And we've already got a lot of priors that have been sent to the AG's office. Others are just folks that we don't, maybe it's the first time, and they haven't filed their reports or are still outstanding. So I don't know that there's a whole lot I can say about them any more than that. But again, you have the ability to just go ahead and continue these, Mr. Chair, although I'll be glad to answer any of the questions the commission members may have.
Are there any questions from any other commissioners on these matters? Okay. I will use my discretion as chair to continue the matters that being, for the record, case number 2020R-393 and case number 2020R-395. Okay, the next category is to continue upon the request of the respondent, case number 2021R-259. Mr. Executive Director.
Yeah, that guy asked for a continuance yesterday. He said he's real close to getting his filings done with the Montgomery County Board, and he just needs a little more time.
Okay, we will, in the discretion of the chair, we will grant that request as well. Okay. All right, the final matters are for the, that we wish to continue for, is that for lack of service?
For failure of service, yeah.
Failure of service, okay.
We've sent out certified mail and haven't necessarily gotten confirmation. I even checked online for every one of these, and it either showed them in process or they were returning it to us, certified mail. They were returning it to us because it hadn't been served. And so with not getting good service on them, I don't feel like we have the ability to go forward.
Okay, all right. In the discretion of the chair, I will, as a group, I will continue these matters for failure of service.
Thank you very much.
For the record, do you need me to read every one of these into the record?
Yeah, why don't you, just for the purposes of the record?
Okay. All
And
right.
plus, I like to hear your voice.
2020R-326, 2020R-340, 2020R-342, 2020R-349, 2020R-383, 2020R-410, 2020R-3 2021R-017.
2021R. We switch years on you right there.
Okay. Yes, that. 2021R-060, 2020R-072,
2021.
2021R-077, 2021R-092, 2021R-106, 2021R-120, 2021R-137, 2021R-142, 2021R-154, 2021R-163, 2021R-166, 2021R-199.
That's it.
So,
Those matters are continued for failure of service. All right. Before we entertain a motion to adjourn, is there any other business that we need to speak of?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Kreitz.
No. Go ahead, Phil.
Well, I was going to say, I have one bit of information that Mr. Beatty, Mr. Kreitz, Ms. Tavares, and Ms. Kaufman will remember. Mr. Knight and Mr. Lyle weren't involved with this. Everybody remember Bellbrook Sugar Creek?
Yes.
Okay. I think it was in January of 2020, they filed a complaint after I denied a motion that the respondents filed a motion with the commission, and I denied that motion. It was to essentially say that the complainant was supposed to not make any kind of comments that would be derogatory either toward the complainant or that could impact the commission, along with a variety of other things. They filed a complaint against the commission in common pleas court, a 119 complaint, which really isn't supposed to happen until a final decision of the commission is made, but they filed it anyway. And just last week, I got notice from the AG's office that the judge in that case finally issued we filed a motion to dismiss. The AG's office filed a motion to dismiss on our behalf. We just got notice last week that the judge finally granted our motion to dismiss. And so presumably now we have the ability to go forward on that case. I will be reviewing everything and starting to set the commission's schedule for the summer and the fall. That will be one of the cases I hope to move forward. I have no idea what's going to happen with that. It's essentially 3 years old at this point because it was a 2019 case. The complainant was originally represented by Mr. McTighe. Subsequently, they withdrew their representation in the last 4 or 5 months, I think it was. And a new attorney has supposedly, I think they filed a notice that they are going to be representing the complainant in that case. But I just wanted to let everybody know, after 2 years, the judge finally went ahead and granted our motion to dismiss. It should have been granted probably about 1.5 years ago. Anyway, that's all I have aside from the next meeting being June 30th. Mr. Kreitz, you had something.
Just a couple of things, Mr. Chair and Mr. Richter. Phil, in the time that I've been on the commission, every year or so, it's probably every other year, we have you provide us with kind of an update on the status of fines.
Okay.
Would you be in a position sometime before the end of the summer to give us one of those updates again? We'll be halfway through the calendar year at that point in time. I think it would be educational and I think helpful for all the commission members to find out how many fines we've imposed, what's been collected, what's in collection, things of that nature. Kind of the same thing you've always done in the past. So if that meets with the approval of the chair and the commission, I would recommend that we do that and do that before the end of the summer. Secondly, our next meeting, as you indicated, is June 30th. Does the virtual meeting authority that was delegated to us by the General Assembly expire at the end of June or the end of July? In other words, when do we have to return to in-person meetings of the commission?
End of June. And just based on a very quick comment from a representative that I ran into that we have talked about before, Mr. Kreitz, I would not anticipate that continuing on beyond June 30th. But yeah, right now it ends on June 30th. And so I would anticipate that from July on, we'll be back to meeting in person.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
That's my anticipation, at least.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And we're not meeting on the 16th.
We're not
We
meeting on the
decided-
16th. That's when I will be
Right.
traveling.
Right.
That should have been taken down from the website earlier. It wasn't my bad. I'm sorry. But I will be, I wouldn't necessarily be totally averse to trying to, since we're meeting remotely anyway. But that's right around the time when I'll be traveling back into the country. And so I didn't want to mess with it. Sorry.
Hey,
No,
Phil,
no,
I was going to be gone anyway, too.
Oh, okay. There we go.
I just wanted to make sure that I didn't miss one because my schedule is through June 30th is kind of wonky. So I just wanted to make sure. Thank
So
you.
June 30th will be the next commission meeting.
Still remote.
Still remote at that point, yes.
Thank you.
But yeah, in the interim, I will certainly be in contact with the governor's office just to say, hey, any anticipation of whether this is going to be continued or not, and try and get any kind of a definitive answer. I don't know that I'll get one, but I'll try, and we'll see if they come up with anything else.
Hey, Phil, on that note, is there anyone in the General Assembly that is supporting that notion of continuing virtual meetings or not, or is it just the governor's office?
I am not aware of there being enough of a movement in the General Assembly to do that. Let's put it that way. I don't want to do it here, but I'll call you and discuss what I heard about why we ended up having this. I think I've discussed it with Mr. Kreitz, maybe, and maybe somebody else about why, but I'm not going to get into it here.
Sure.
You're muted, Otto.
I mean, I would say that, if it would be continued on, I think we do need to revisit on what we do under certain circumstances. I understand it's allowing, more people to participate and different things like that. But when we have an actual formal hearing, the virtual option, I don't mean the preliminary hearings. I'm talking about the formal hearings, the way that we're set up, our technology or lack of technology, I would call it, does not seem to work well.
Yeah.
And so if we were allowed to stay virtual, we may want to, consider our own individual approach for when we actually have a hearing with witnesses and attorneys that want to attend and, everything like that. I mean, it's been even a little bit tough with the preliminary hearings as well, when the attorneys are actually physically showing up and we're not there, and, but let's cross that road when we come to it. No sense in hashing it out now when it may be a moot point. But I just wanted to raise that if it does get continued, I'll be asking the board to have some discussion around that.
Mr. Chair, that's a great idea. Having been chair where I conducted hearings virtually and also in person, I can tell you that there probably needs to be some rules and regulations put into place for virtual hearings, not the least of which is that witnesses and exhibits and things of that nature need to be provided well in advance of the virtual hearing to the commission members, things of that nature. We can cross that bridge when we get there, but I think your point is well taken. And as one who's been a litigator for 40 years in federal court, I can tell you that it really is very difficult conducting a hearing virtually here unless we have some rules and regulations in place.
Yeah, because I'll make one comment on that. Let's say, for instance, that the viruses or whatever spike up or whatever, and things would really turn or something like that. And for public safety, we decide to do something, maybe even the state would decide to do something or whatever. It's almost as if the hybrid is what is not working. And so a decision could be made that everybody has to be virtual. Can't have some people there, some people here, some people virtual.
That's right.
Everyone would need to be virtual, taking into account some new set of rules to have things in advance, et cetera, you know. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I think I read in the newspaper where the President of the Senate, President Huffman, has indicated that he probably will not be bringing the people back in the Senate until after the election in November. I don't know what the House's position on that. They said that the Speaker had not indicated an intention thus far. So, Phil, getting back to your question, it could very well be that the General Assembly won't be back in session until after the election anyhow.
Well, especially when you think of the fact that there haven't been any primary elections yet for House and Senate members, and they've still got to get that all worked out.
Yeah.
And they're looking like doing it in August. Yeah, I think that's a real possibility. Because, I mean, if they have the primaries in August, then they're immediately turning around, and you know that as well as anybody, Ms. Tavares, they're immediately turning around and starting to run for the general at that point.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? Any other new business? Any old business? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to adjourn that's been duly seconded. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion passes 6-0. See you on June the 30th.
Yep. Thank you all.
Thank you
Have
all.
a great vacation
Hey,
or
thanks.
time away.
Have a good one,
Phil.
Phil.
I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Go ahead,
I
Phil.
plan on it. It should be a lot of fun. Hopefully.
All
Yeah.
right.
All right. You guys take care. Have a great day. Appreciate it.
Everybody take care. Bye-bye.